So today we're going to start using Newforma. So we're going to start with our basics of Newforma Project Center. My name is Lori Lambert. For those who have not met me, I am going to be your trainer throughout the rollout of Newforma at Cline. And so we start these trainings usually with a PowerPoint, and then I go into my training environment. So the names of the projects will be different, but the functionality will all be the same. And you should be able to go right back to your desk and start performing the steps that we're going to do today to start using Newforma and filing email and doing searches and all that good stuff. So we talk first about why Newforma and why we use Newforma, why it's being rolled out at your firm, what are we using it for, what benefits will I get out of it. And really there are three main benefits to using Project Center. So with Newforma in general, it's going to help you find your project information faster because it's like a big indexing search engine that's going to go through all your drawing files, your PDFs and emails associated with the project and allow you to word search those, similar to a Google search, and find that information much faster and quicker. So we're gonna kind of see that when I go into my version of Newforma. It's also going to bring all the information about the project into one place so that you can find tasks that have been assigned to people on your project team, track the tasks, find files that you have transferred to people, see if they actually downloaded the files. And it's really going to increase the transparency and accountability for the project as a whole. And in the end, it's going to integrate your data, whether it's drawing files, PDFs, or Excel files, or if it's tasks associated with the project, like RFIs or submittals, and bring all that information into one place so that the whole project team can see that information in the same place and they're all on the same page. So how does it work? Well, Newforma sits on top of your existing structure, your folder structure on your network, and it indexes everything that's in that folder structure. So you're not filing anything in a different location. You're still filing it in the same place, but Newforma gives you an easy way to kind of search all of that information in one place and be able to find not only project information, but also help you with making decisions or project intelligence on that project. So as a firm, as you are an internal person, you are an employee of your firm, you will be able to access any project that is in Newforma. You will be able to search those projects. You'll be able to file emails to those projects. External people, people outside of your firm, we'll talk about that really during our next couple of trainings, but just to give you an idea, you can give them access to your firm's project website, and that doesn't expose your project folders to them. It doesn't give them access that you wouldn't want them to have. It simply allows them to access specific things that they are a party to, like file transfers, for example, that they can download the files from your project website and even send files back to you if they need to, but they won't see anything that they are not explicitly named on. So we don't have to worry about showing them, external people things that they shouldn't see, and we give them that flexibility of being able to download and to be able to send files back, but also anything that they're involved in with your project in relation to maybe action items or meetings or things like that. If they are a party to those particular items, they would have that one central hub of your firm's project website that they could go into and kind of see everything that they're a party to on that project in that one location, and they don't need to be Newforma customers to do that. So it gives them a lot of flexibility, and they don't have to download anything or anything like that, and has that flexibility to be able to see what they need to be able to access on that project. Just an example from one of our customers about the ability to find that information that they were looking for quickly and easily, and it's really about saving time and effort, but in this case also money. So you really have that easy way to kind of search for what you need to find and be able to find it even if you were not on, say, the original email or file transfer. You'll still be able to find that information. So when you're in the office, you'll be able to use Project Center to word search the data, whether it's logs or files or transfers that you send, and you're going to be able to share that information with your external team members or people in the field, people that are part of Cline that are, out in the field. They'll be able to access that information on the project website and be able to see all those transfers, filed email, that kind of thing. This basic training is just really a getting started. We're going to talk about navigating around the system, how we use a Newforma search, filing email, and even doing markups. The next training that we're going to do later this week, we're going to kind of build upon that. We're going to talk about project teams and sending file transfers. So what it looks like to our external people, how we access the project website, and actually sending those files and seeing that kind of detailed information that we can get from our file transfers. So while I'm going here into my main screen, just to remind everybody, we do offer AIA credit and learning certificates for this session, actually for all of our training sessions. So if you registered for the course online, you'll get a survey afterwards, and you'll be able to request a certificate or AIA credit for this course. If you don't get a survey, feel free to just send that to Steve, and Steve, you can just send those to me, and I'll be happy to provide that to anyone who might need it. So when you're back at your desk and you need to access Newforma, you'll have this little icon right here, this little 3 hexagons that I have on the screen, and all I have to do is double click on it and it will bring me to the main screen of Newforma, this My Project Center screen. It always opens at this screen. It's the home screen for all of Newforma, and just navigationally on the screen we have some icons up here on the top toolbar, and we'll kind of talk about these as we go through this training and the next couple of trainings. On the left, you will always see tasks and common questions, and these are dynamic. They do change depending upon which screen we happen to be on in Newforma. And usually the common questions will answer probably about 80% of the questions for the screen that you're on. If not, if it's something that you want to find out information about and it's not the screen that you're on and you don't really know where to start, you can always click in the upper right-hand corner to our little question mark here, and that will take you to the help. Now it will open in a web browser, and I can search the help directly from here. And I also have a learning tab over here on the left. And if I click on that, I do have some video tutorials. I also have e-learning modules, etc. But if I wanted to learn, for example, about action items, I could come into the My Project Center video tutorials and say, oh yeah, I want to learn about action items. And I'll have some little videos here that I can watch anytime that I want. I don't have to have Newforma open. I just need to be within the help. So I could just open a web browser and just type in help.newforma.com at any time, and I can access any of the videos or search help without even having Newforma open, or even being on my VPN if I'm working from home. I can access this anytime and watch those videos. They're always on demand. So I also see on the My Project Center screen here, I have a My Projects tab and an All Projects tab. Now in my system, I don't have that many projects. I only have about 64. You might have quite a number more, especially since as you start to use Newforma, you'll have all of your current projects in Project Center, but as a project completes, and we can change it over to archive, which means that we can still search the project and run reports on it. We just can't add anything new to the project, so we couldn't file more email, for example, but we could still search the project and provide those reports. So you might end up having a lot more in here than just active projects. They might be archive projects, they could be opportunity projects, etc. So to find the project that I'm looking for, the one that I want to access, I can either, search here, start typing in the column header, maybe for part of the name of the project or the project manager. I could scroll through the list, that's fine. I could also sort by clicking on any column header, so I could sort things alphabetically or numerically. But what all of you will quickly learn about me is that if there's a quicker, faster way of doing something, I'm going to find it. I don't like to waste time. I don't like to do repetitive work. And that's where this My Project tab comes into play. So the My Project tab really helps you to create a quick list of projects for yourself that are ones that you're currently working on. You might be the project manager, you might just be on the project team. You might be involved in just part of the project or advising on something, but these are projects that I need to access on a regular basis. So I can add a project to the My Projects tab so that I don't have to go to the All Projects tab every single time I want to look for a project. So in this case, to add a project to the My Projects, I'm first going to start at the All Projects for the first time, and I can simply type in or scroll or filter and look for a project. Now, in my system, maybe I want to add my Fowler Square project. Now, don't worry about the number at the end of the name. That's unique to my training environment. A lot of us share it, so we always have our number after our project so we know which one is ours. But I have my project here. Now, to add it to the My Projects tab, all I have to do is right-click on the name of the project, and I'm going to say Add to My Projects. Now, if you're more of a menu person instead of a mouse person, feel free to go ahead and come over to the tasks over here on the left side and say Add to My Projects. Both ways it does the same thing. So 3 things are going to happen when I click on the Add to My Projects. The first is that it's going to put the project on the My Projects tab. The second is that it's going to add a folder in Outlook to help me file my email. And the third is that it's going to place me on the project team and give me web access to this project. Now, that third part of the equation here doesn't really come into play with our training today, but it will later this week when we're talking about file transfers and giving access to the project website. So kind of focus in on the first 2, and then we'll kind of talk about that third one a little bit later this week. So I'm just going to say Add to My Projects, and I'm going to get a pop-up. It's going to tell me that it's adding the folder to Outlook. And if I come over to the My Projects tab, here it is. And if I come over to Outlook, I have a header called Newforma Items to File, and I have 2 folders under the Newforma Items to File, and these are each folders for the projects that are on the My Projects for me. And these don't act like a regular Outlook folder. They work a little bit differently, and when we talk about filing email, we'll kind of come back to this. But just know that Newforma creates them automatically, and they don't act like a regular Outlook folder. They act more like a processing queue. So we'll come back and we'll talk about that functionality when we're filing some email. But we're ready to access our project. So before we go to our project, any questions as to how we got to where we are right now? Nope. Yeah, nothing scary yet, right? We're going to ease all into this, so none of this is scary. It all kinds of builds upon one another. So once we kind of get the hang of things, you'll see things can tend to work the same way throughout all of Newforma. So really, it's just kind of getting the hang of it to begin with, and then it's a piece of cake after that. So we're going to go ahead and access our Alpengrove project. All I'm going to do is double click on it, and it's going to take me to the project home. So up here at the top, it's going to tell me it's the project home, the project number, and notice my tasks and common questions have changed, and I have a photo for my project. And I wish science centers looked like this when I went to college. It would have been really nice, but they weren't quite that snazzy. And notice we're going to talk here about our project files and our project email today. And then during our next training, we're actually going to talk about our project team, and we're going to talk about info exchange. So we're going to kind of build upon these and start branching out into the other activity centers here as we go along. Now, if I needed to change project, I could either click on the little guy up here to return to my project center. It would take us back to that first screen that we were just on, or I could click the down arrow up here and I can go to any project in the My Projects or any recent projects that I had accessed. Or if it wasn't one of those, I could simply click on the More, and I could access any project that's in Newforma that I have access to. Maybe there might be some confidential projects I don't see, but everything else I see, and I could just easily change projects that way. I'm one that I don't tend to go backwards to go forward, so I'd rather just click the down arrow. But either way works totally fine. So we're going to talk first about our project files. So when I click into our project files, I'm going to see a whole bunch of folders in here, and if I click on some of these, I can drill down and look at these, and I get a, preview of it down here at the bottom, and I can see different things in here, DWGs, PDFs, XLS, Word documents, JPEGs. I can see all kinds of different things in here. And what's really nice about this is that the folders that I'm seeing here, now remember this is my system, the folders that I see here are not copies of what is on the network. They are what's on the network. So if, for example, I'm someone that I like to be able to create subfolders or rename folders, maybe I'm the admin or the project manager for a project, if I needed to do that function and I was in Newforma already, I could simply come to any of these folders, for example, and right-click, and I can say Explorer tasks, and I have all of those same Windows Explorer tasks that I would have if I was in Windows Explorer and not Newforma. So just know that if I move a file or create a new folder or rename a folder, it's immediately on the, if somebody was in Windows Explorer, they would see that change because these are not copies, they are the actual files. So that's why when I was talking before about you won't have to file anything in a different location, it's because we are just indexing the files that are in the folders that are on your network. So when we set up a project in Newforma, we actually point to the location on the network for that top folder of the project. So in my case, it's going to be this one. And we say, okay, from this folder and everything under it relates to this project. And what Newforma does is it kind of sits like a blanket on top of all of those folders, and it indexes everything within the folder structure. So when we do a search, we search at a much deeper level. And I know a lot of people will say, well, Lori, I search in Windows Explorer, and that seems to work just fine. And that's fine. If you're very happy with that, then go ahead, more power to you, right? But Newforma actually adds a deeper level of searching because we're not only indexing, for the searching capabilities, the name of the file, the body of the email, we're also indexing all of the words, the numbers, the phrases on attachments to emails. We're using optical character recognition to index DWGs and PDFs and things like that. So I know that I work on a large team and people don't always name things consistently. They don't always put them in the folder I think they should be in. So sometimes when I go to look for a file, I might go into the folder that I think it's going to be in. And if it's not there, what do I have to do? Well, here at Newforma, about 80% of us are remote, so I have to either send that person an email, call them, try to get them on Skype and say, okay, what did you call it? Where did you put it? Then they have to remember and tell me, oh, I called it this and I put it in this folder. And I might go in and look and it's not there. And so I have to go back, and it's this whole back and forth that doesn't really need to happen. With Newforma, as long as I have like a word, a phrase, or a number or something like that that I can search on, I can search the entire folder structure at that deep level of searching and be able to find what I'm looking for. So again, saving me time and effort, because we really want to take a lot of the administrative burden off of people and let everybody get back to what they like to do, right? Not what they have to do. So this way, I'm still filing things in the same folder structure on the network, but I have an easier way of being able to search all of that and find what I'm looking for very quickly and easily. So here, if I'm looking and I want to search my whole folder structure here, I'm going to come up to the upper right-hand corner and say Search Project Contents. Now today, I'm just going to look for the word skylight. It could be door, window, it could be a phrase. If it was a phrase just like a Google search, I would put it in quotes. If it was a number, I could do that. If it was, two different words like fire and hydrant, I would just leave them separate, but I would still put them both up there. And if I'm searching the entire project, all I have to do is press enter, or I can click on the little magnifying glass. Works either way. But if I look at the down arrow here, I have a couple of other options. I can search the current project. I can search just the project email. I can search all of my projects, so all of the projects on that My Projects tab that we just did, I could search all of those at one time. And I can even search selected projects. So imagine like you have, it's March Madness right now, so let's say we're doing a project on one of the university campuses. Now I'm not going to pick one because I know we probably all have different favorites, but if I was looking at a university campus and maybe we're working on a building, a science building, and to me, as a person, it's only one project because it's one building. But because of maybe the way that it was set up in Newforma, maybe that came from our accounting system, or just the way that it was broken out for maybe different floors, it was maybe separate projects. Well, I don't want to have to search each one individually to find what I'm looking for. If I choose the selected projects, I could come in, and if they were all on the My Projects, I could choose them that way, or I could pick and choose, you know, different projects in here and be able to search them all at one time. So again, saving time and effort. So if you ever need to search across multiple projects, just know you either have the My Projects that you can search all at one time, or the selected projects, and you can pick and choose which projects that you search, just to save you some time and effort. Because like I said, if you're looking for something that somebody else filed and named, it may not be where you expect it to be. So we want to be able to save that time and effort. So here I'm going to look for skylight. So I'm just going to press enter, and it's going to perform a search down at the bottom. It's going to give me a little status bar. It usually goes pretty quick. And it's going to tell me when its search is finished. And it tells me here in the middle how many results it found. So it found 237. Still quite a few, but if you'll notice up at the top, I do have the ability to sort by name, by date modified. Maybe I was looking for something more recent, so I could sort it by date modified. So I could say, oh yeah, these are the ones that are this week. And I could take a look at those. And I could even start typing in part of the name of the file if I wanted to narrow things down. And I even have things like a related items column. So in Newforma, it's a pretty common concept that you'll see in a lot of different places, is we have this concept of a related item. So in a minute, I'm going to do a markup within Newforma. And when we create a markup session in Project Center, we're simply creating a layer that sits on top. We're not changing the source file at all. And what happens when we save that markup session is it becomes a related item to the original source file. So again, since it's not changing the source file, it's not actually modifying that, it's just that layer that sits on top, and it becomes a related item. Thinking down the road when we're talking about file transfers, which we will later this week, when we create a transmittal for that file transfer, the transmittal is considered a related item. So you'll notice here in my related items column, I do have a little funnel, and I could include or exclude certain search results that had or did not have some of these items. So I could say, oh yeah, what I'm looking for I knew was part of a shared folder, or it was part of a document set or an action item, or I knew for sure that it wasn't part of a submittal. So I have a lot of different ways to filter this down. And if I click on any one of these, I'll be able to see a preview down here at the bottom. And here I even have the path. Now normally I have this moved over here, so we're just going to move it out of the way here for just a second. But I could type in even part of the path name if I knew kind of where it was, but maybe not sure. I could start typing in part of that path. Now you can drag and drop the columns just like I did. It only changes your view. It doesn't change anyone else's. And I can also narrow down, not only using all of these column headers and filters, but I have a drop down here to filter by groups of types of files. So in this case, maybe I was looking for an email. So it's going to pull in everything that's .msg or .eml as the extension. And I'll see here that it's going to tell me it filtered down to 5. So it tells me right there in the middle. And if I click on one of these, it's going to show me where that word skylight was found. So in this case, the word skylight was actually found in the Excel spreadsheet attached to this email message, and the attachment is not named skylight. So it has that much deeper level of searching. Now here, if I click on another one, you'll see it was in the name of the email, the subject line. Here, if I click down here in the bottom, it's going to be in the name of my files. So it searches, like I said, not only the body, but the attachments, the subject line, all of that. It's going to be able to find that for me. Now, let's say that it wasn't an email. Let's say it was a drawing file. It's going to pull up all of my DWG, DGN, DXF. And if I filter down to that, I still have 105, still quite a few. But I can come in here and I can click on any one of these, and I get a little thumbnail down here at the bottom. Even with LASIK, Still too small, right? It's still way too small. I would probably need a magnifying glass if I wanted to see it on this screen, but it gives me a sense of really what am I looking at? You know, what kind of file is this? Oh yeah, that's a, you know, it's a floor plan. It's a whatever it happens to be. And I can see here in my related items that there is a related item to this file. And if I look here at my related items tab, I can see I actually have 3 markup sessions related to this file, and I can see who did them and when. So it will stay related to the original source file. Remember, it doesn't change it. And then I can see who did all of the markup sessions and when. So we're actually going to mark this one up because we're going to say that this is the exact same one that I needed to find. And I can simply double click on this to open it in the Newforma viewer. So if I look over here to the left, I have my main option is open with the Newforma viewer, and it's in bold, which means that if I were to double click on this file, that is what happens by default. I don't have to have AutoCAD installed. I don't have to, if it's a PDF, I don't have to have Adobe installed. I could simply open it with the Newforma viewer. So anything that is a 2D image, so DWG, DGN, DXF, JPEG, PNG, PDF, all of those I can open by default in the viewer. If I wanted to open it in AutoCAD, that's fine. I just won't have the markup tools that I have with the Newforma viewer. Or if it was Bluebeam, you could open it in Bluebeam, that's fine. But I have this ability to be able to open this, and when I do, when I double click, it's going to open, like I said, in the Newforma viewer. We'll give it just a second. It seems like after lunch my training environment doesn't want to work quite as quickly, so we'll just give it another second. There we go. And I can see it's going to tell me how many times the word skylight was found in this file. And if I click on any one of these, it will actually zoom into that part of the file. I could also change what I was searching for in this one file very easily. And if it wasn't that skylight, maybe it was this one, or this one, or this one. It's very easy to switch between them. And if I had markup sessions, if I come to the markup sessions tab, I can include or exclude these and overlay them and flatten it into a PDF. So we're going to do that in just a little bit. So let's say, for example, that this is the skylight that I want. So I'm going to close that, and I'm just going to use the roller ball on my mouse to kind of zoom out, get a better sense of what I'm looking at. And I'm going to use this little tool up here at the top to navigate around to kind of drag it a little bit. And I might zoom in just a little bit more and drag it the other way. Now this looks like an eye chart to me. I don't want to make you guys blind, so I'm going to turn off the snap, and I'm going to turn on the monochrome up here just to make it a little bit easier to see, because I know sometimes in a training and you're looking at all these crazy colors, it's just too much to look at. So here's the skylight above the stairs that we're talking about, and let's say that I need to mark this up. So to perform the markup, I'm simply going to click on my markup tool right up here at the upper left, and it's going to provide them over here on that left panel. So I can see I have stamps, leaders with a call out, text boxes, clouds, I can insert images, and I have all these different pen colors. If you choose, you can color code your markup. So if you currently mark things with a certain color, you know, individually as a person, or if you mark them with certain colors depending upon the type of markup it is. If it's MEP, it's this color. If it's landscape, it's this color. If it's electrical only, it's this color, or architectural. You can actually change the pen colors. They stay sticky for you. So I can double click on any of these to change the properties of that pen. So if you had things set up a certain way and you liked, you know, 5 certain pens, you could set those up the first time and then they would stay that way for you going forward. So you wouldn't have to go in and change them every time. So if I'm ready to mark this up, I'm actually going to draw a cloud with my leader, or with my pointer, and I'm going to choose this pen, although I don't want to draw in hot pink today, so I'm going to double click on it, and I'm going to draw this in this bright blue. And I can change the weight of the line type, if I was using a leader, the leader style, or the dimensioning tool. If it was something that had text and had fill behind it, I could choose the color to apply to the fill, as well as the color of the font and the font on any font properties. So the size, the font, the color. In this case, I'm just going to say okay. And then I'm just going to draw my cloud around where that skylight is, and then I'm going to draw a leader with call out. Sorry, let me go ahead and move that one. Hold on. Let me just remove that one, and let me draw a leader with a call out. There we go. And I'm just going to draw this over here and say, please check location of skylight for stairwell. If I could spell it, it'd be really good today. Okay, so I have this here, and I could still move this around. I could right-click on it, and I could edit the text. I could change the alignment. I could add another leader. Maybe I need to point to something else, maybe in relation to the mechanical. And I could even change the shape and put a shape around this if I wanted to, and move this any way that I need to. Now I could continue to zoom out and pan around and capture other things here for my markup if I wanted to. If I was ready to save my markup, I'm simply either going to click the disk in the upper left-hand corner, or I can click the X in the upper right-hand corner if I was completely done with the viewer. Before I save this, I just want to make sure if there are any questions that we get those answered. Okay, so if we're ready to save, I'm just going to click on the X. It's going to know that I've done a markup, so it's going to ask me if I want to save it, so I'm just going to say yes. Now remember, again, just a layer that sits on top. So when I name this and it says save markup session as, I can name this anything that I want because I'm not changing the source file at all. So in this case, I'm just going to say skylight and put today's date in, even though it's still going to name, date, and timestamp it, HR for Howard Rourke, because that's who I'm logged in as, and I'm going to say OK. So it's going to close my viewer, and if I refresh my screen, I'm just going to click the refresh right up here. It's going to refresh my screen, and I now have 4 related items. So I can see here's the one I just did. And just so that all of you are aware, I force the refresh. It happens automatically every couple of minutes in Newforma anyway. I just don't want to make you wait for it. I just click on that little refresh button. Now, if I had sent this out to, say, everybody on my team, and I said, hey, provide me your markups, we'll talk about them at our meeting on Wednesday. And I sent this all out, and people are doing their markups. Even external people, which we'll see, they can even do markups on the project website on this file, and the markup will synchronize back to the source file. I could simply open this back up in the viewer if I want to flatten it into a PDF. Again, I get all of my responses here, all of my skylight notations, and I see all of the different markups that are associated to this sheet, and I can see who did them and when. Name, date, timestamp. Even if they were external people, I would still see it. And then I can overlay one or all of them. So I can see those here. They're all over the place. And actually, let me turn that back to monochrome just so it's a little bit easier to see. Make that a little bit bigger. There we go. So you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I was ready to flatten this into a PDF to send back out to my team to say, hey, this is what we're going to talk about tomorrow. This is everybody's markups. We're good to go. I could simply click on my PDF button up here in the upper left, and I can either say create or send PDF. So if I was ready to send it via email or info exchange, I could do that. Or in this case, I'm just going to say create PDF. We'll kind of come back to that PDF that I'm going to create here in just a second. We'll come back to that when we do our file transfer later this week, because I'm actually going to send that file. So here I'm going to save it to my desktop, and I'm going to say training March. Hard to believe it's the 21st of March. 21st of March, and then markups, and I'm just going to save it to my desktop. The markups still are separate layers, so if I wanted to come back in and create another PDF with only certain people's, like maybe certain markups are only MEP and some are architectural, and I want to create separate PDFs, all I'd have to do is come right back up here to my binoculars and my markup sessions tab, and I could maybe take out a couple of these and then flatten it into a PDF with just those markups. So just be aware that they're all separate layers, and then I can pick and choose which ones I want to overlay to create a PDF. Okay, so we've got our PDF, we've done our searching, and now we're ready to talk about the bane of everyone's existence, which is email. So to get back to my project home, I just click on my little home button up here. And I don't know about you, but I have way too many emails in my inbox, and I'd like a better way of managing them. So Newforma is really helpful in that regard. And when I look at my project email activity center, as an internal person, I'm accessing this, I'm able to see all filed project email. Whether or not I was on it, as long as it's been filed to the project, which we'll talk about how they get here in just a minute, I can see all of these emails. I can search them. I can say, oh, I want to see all emails from, let's say, from Bob to Howard or to a certain person. I can go ahead and filter those out. I can even look at all emails that were sent within a certain time frame, right? And I can filter those down as well. And if there's an email in here that maybe I wasn't a party to, so let's take a look at maybe, let's say, all emails from Peter, and maybe there was an email in here that was maybe to Adam, and I needed to respond to this. So like Howard is not on this email at all. I could simply double click on the email. It's going to open it in Outlook, and I could simply say reply or reply all and respond to that email, even though I was never on the original email. So what does that mean for you? You don't have to be CC'd on every single email, especially if it's something that you really don't need. It's just if you ever need to go look up something, you need to have somewhere to go look it up. You don't have to be CC'd on all these emails anymore. And if it's filed, and let's say that I need to get it back into my Outlook, maybe I need to respond to it, but I'm not quite ready, I could simply highlight that email or even a group of emails, and I can say copy to my mailbox. This allows me to have a copy of this filed project email put into Outlook for me in a separate folder called Newforma Copied Messages. And from here, I can treat it like any other email. I could reply to it, I could forward it, I could even delete it, because the email itself is still in Project Center associated to this project. And for anyone who's concerned about when I say in Project Center, it's kind of in quotes. When we talk about things being in Newforma, especially when we're talking about email, all of the filed project email that I see here, these are simply in a folder that Newforma creates on the network in the folder structure for this project for filed project email. Newforma just gives us an easy way to filter it, sort it, search it, etc. But it is still on your network in the folder structure for this project. So when I say things are in Newforma, it is really with quotes, because it really is still on your network in the folder structure for this project. So if I have that email and I do copy to my mailbox and then I delete it from there, it's not really a big deal. Maybe I research something and I go, oh, so-and-so already answered this question. And I could just delete it from that Newforma copied messages, because the actual email is still sitting in that folder on the network associated to this project and is indexed and searchable, so that I don't have to worry about, oh yeah, I really don't need that one. As long as it's still filed to the project, totally fine. And I don't have to keep a lot of emails in my inbox any longer, especially in archive folders, because what happens is, we all know the drill, right? We have so many emails and so many project-related emails. So what do we start to do? We start to create subfolders. And then we have all of these archive folders with thousands of emails in them, taking up space that we never access on the off chance that one day we might need one email, right? Well, if it sits there and it was an email that was only sent to me, either A, I have to forward it to everybody on the team, or B, it stays in my Outlook and it's in a silo. And what happens if I leave my firm? Then they're still not associated to a project. Nobody knows about them. And if we ever needed to find those emails, it might be difficult for, someone in IT to kind of bring those somewhere and have to go through all those emails and have all of this time and effort trying to find where are we going to put all these emails. So why not file them into Newforma to the project, have everybody internally can see them and search them, and we just saw we could even get them back if we needed to, back into Outlook so we could reply to them or forward them. But that way they're out of that kind of silo that sits in all these archive folders. And we can be more collaborative in our communication and our project management on the internal side, and then externally people can still have that project website to access information. So the one direction goes from Newforma back to Outlook, and we saw how we could get that back to here. But the other direction is by far the most important. How does it get from Outlook into Newforma? And there are two main ways for existing emails. The question always comes in my mind, do I need the email to stay where it is? So is it in my inbox and I need to respond to it? Or is it in a to-do list of things for me to do? Or is it there to remind me of something? Or is it an email that normally I would put into an archive folder because I've already responded to it, or it was just an FYI, or it was something that somebody else already responded to, but I didn't really need to do anything with it. And normally I would just put it into an archive folder and it would sit there and I would never do anything with it, right? But the point is that I don't need it to reside wherever it is right now. So in the first instance, if I do need it to stay where it is, I need it in my inbox to remind me of, XYZ. I can come to my email or even a group of emails. So I'm just going to come down here and find an email. And if I had this email, or even it could even be a group, it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to highlight the email, and we're going to choose two of them here. And I'm going to come up to my Outlook add-in here for Newforma. And I'm going to click on the top part of this button, and I'm going to say File in Project. It's going to give me a little pop-up window here. Again, mine goes super slow in the afternoons. It shouldn't be that slow. It's going to remember the last email that I filed to. And if it's not that email, I can click the down arrow. I can choose any project in the My Projects or Recent Projects. If it's not one of those, I can simply click on the ellipsis and I can choose any project in Newforma. So I can choose my project, and then all I have to do is say OK. Newforma will immediately copy the email. It will take the copy, put it on the network in the project email folder for filed project email, file it, index it to the project. It leaves the email exactly where it was in Outlook, and it tags it in the categories as filed by Newforma. It will only tell you if you filed the email. It will not tell you if someone else did. But the great thing is that I can file every single email, and if somebody else had already filed that email, Newforma will recognize my filing of the email as a duplicate, and it will not file it. So it's no problem if I send an email to all of you and all of you filed the email. The first one gets filed to the project. Every subsequent filing of the exact same email, Newforma recognizes as a duplicate, doesn't file it, it's okay. And when I go to do a search, I would only see that email once. I would not see it 6, 8, 10 times. I would only see it once. Now, if all of you replied individually and you filed your responses, which we'll talk about in a second, then I would see all of those responses individually, but the initial email I would only see once. So that's if I need the email to stay where it is right now. Now, I'm using my inbox, but it could truly be in any folder in Outlook. It could be in maybe you have a to-do folder, maybe you have some other subfolder that you manage things in, maybe a meetings folder or something like that. It could be really initiating from any folder in Newforma. It doesn't have to be your inbox. It could even be your deleted items. It could be your sent folder. It could be any of those. Now, the second way is if I do not need the email to reside where it is any longer. Let's say it was something that I already responded to, or it was an FYI, or it was something that I would never need to respond to, but it's project related. I would simply take the email or group of emails, and I'm going to drag and drop them over to these Newforma items to file folders. These folders come from the My Projects. So remember, when we added the project to the My Projects, it creates these folders. And these folders act like a processing queue. They don't act like a regular Outlook folder. So what happens with these folders is you'll put the emails here, and they're kind of like when you go to the dentist, you know, you kind of wait in the waiting room for a while, and then they come by and pick you up and they say, hey, come back for the cleaning. They kind of just hang out here in the waiting room and they wait. And it could be anywhere from a few seconds to a couple of minutes. But what Newforma does on the back end is it goes from person to person. It only checks the Newforma items to file folders over here in Outlook, and it will come to the first person and it says, okay, is there anything in either one of these folders? If there is, Newforma picks it up, copies it, moves the copy on the network to the project folder for filed project email, files it, indexes it. It takes the original email, puts it in your deleted items. So it's not completely out of Outlook, but it's not back where it was originally. So it goes through that one person, and then it goes on to the next person, and it does the same thing. And it does this constantly on the back end. So when you file a whole bunch of emails to your project folder here, or to your items to file folders, that's why I say it could be anywhere from a few seconds to a few minutes. It depends on a couple of different factors. You know, where are you in the queue? It goes through alphabetically, so if it had just passed you and you have a lot of employees, it might take a while to get back to you. It also depends on how many folders are under the items to file, because it looks at each folder individually, and how many emails are being filed. So after this training, if all of you go back and start filing your email in gobs and gobs and gobs, right, it might take a little bit longer because it's got more to go through and go from person to person. So like I said, it could be, I've done some trainings where I place it in here and it's here for about 10 seconds and it just picks it right up. And then I've been in other trainings where I'm here and it might be about 10 minutes before it comes back and it'll pick them up. But eventually it will come by and pick these up, you know, file them to the project for the copy, and then it moves it to the deleted items. Now when it does, it still puts it in the deleted items. It will still tag it as filed by Newforma, so I know that I have filed the email. So those are for existing emails. So, you know, these will come here, or you do the file in project up at the top. That's an action item, so that's why it said file and action item, but file in project up here at the top. So depending on whether you need the email to stay where it is, or whether you need the email, you don't need the email where it is any longer, then you'll either do the file in project or the drag and drop. Now for emails that you're responding to, if I say reply or reply all, I'm going to have this new button in the upper left, send and file in project. So when I click this, I'm going to say, thanks, Bob. Please proceed. Now, normally I would handle this through a much more formal process, but that's okay. I'm going to say send and file in project, and I get that same pop-up. Again, it remembers the last project that I filed to, and I can just say okay. So it's going to send the email to Bob. It's going to, in my case, not, because my system is a training environment, but in the sent items, I would be able to see that email, and it will be tagged as filed by Newforma. So from here, I could filter by everything that's filed by Newforma and delete them all, and even delete them out of the deleted that way, because they're all in Project Center and I can always get them back if I need to. Now, if I'm doing a brand new email, I have that same send and file in project button. Now, is it necessary to file every single email in Newforma? No. If you have certain things that are project related, file them. But if you're sending something out to say, hey, can everybody meet today at 3 to talk about blah, 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 probably not. You probably don't need to send it, right? So just be aware of, you know, things that are project related and things that aren't. If you think something is not project related when you send it, or you just click send and you forgot send and file in project, you can simply come back to your sent items and either do the drag and drop or the file in project. Either way works. Because I can do this from any folder, even my deleted. I could still drag and drop or file in project. So I have a way of being able to manage those. Until the email is deleted out of the deleted, I can still file it to the project, not a problem. So I have a nice way of being able to manage my email, not have things sit in a silo, and have it related to the project. Now just be aware that if you file an email to the project, anybody internally will be able to search that email. So, you know, if you're talking bad about people, maybe just don't file those emails, because they will be able to search those emails internally, so employees of your firm. Just something to be aware of. You know, people laugh sometimes when I say that, but you would be surprised at some of the things that I've seen in project email. If it is an external person, which we'll talk about during our next training mostly, external people, if you give them web access to a project when they access it through the project website, and you give them access to filed project email, they will still only be able to see emails that have been filed to the project where they are either on the from, the to, or the CC. Otherwise, they do not see the email at all. So don't be afraid of filing like internal conversation emails about projects. That's completely fine. Your external people will still not be able to see those emails, even if they have web access to the project. Only if they were on the from, the to, or the CC of that email would they be able to see it on the project website. So you still have that level of security. You have a couple of different levels. First, I have to choose to give them web access. And second, even if they have web access, if they are external, they still only see things that they are explicitly named on. They don't see everything. So file the emails, have them associated to the project. You can delete them out of Outlook. You don't need them any longer, you know, especially if it's just an FYI kind of email. And don't be afraid of filing an email thinking, oh yeah, you know, so-and-so probably already filed this email, so I'm not going to worry about it. If you file it and it's already been filed, Newforma will catch it as a duplicate, and you won't have to worry about performing a search, you know, in the email, the project email, and seeing that email more than once. I can also highlight any of my emails, and I can say view conversation, and I would be able to see all of the emails that are part of that same conversation without any issue. And like I said, at any time I can copy back to my mailbox. So any questions on anything that we've gone over today? The markups, the searching, the email?
I had one question.
Sure.
When multiple people file an email, you were showing that it said filed in Newforma or whatever. When it,
yep.
Does it still say that even if 6 people copied, or when you go to copy it in? Yeah. Would it still say that if 5 other people did that for everyone?
No, it only tells you if you filed it. It doesn't tell you if anyone else did. The only time it appears there is if you filed it.
Okay, so say another person filed it before I did, and then I went to go file it. Would it still let me know it's filed, or would it just be blank in that spot?
No, it would say filed by Newforma.
Okay.
Yep, because it tags it at the time that you try to file it, and then it goes to the project folder for the filed project email, and that's where it would see the duplicate, and it would say, oh, this one already exists, I don't need to file it a second time. So it will still tag it as filed by Newforma, even if you are filing an email that's already been filed.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Any other questions?
Yeah, how does it determine if there's multiple files to the same folks? Which one it files? The first one?
The first one. So the first time it does it, and then any subsequent filing of the exact same email, it will recognize as a duplicate and it won't file it.
But for our record's sake, I mean, knowing that it's been filed, we just go through the motion, and so that it'll say
filed by Newforma. Because it doesn't matter if you're filing something that's already been filed, it won't duplicate it in Project Center. But that way, for your peace of mind, you're like, I know for sure this is filed. Good questions. Okay, while you guys are still thinking, in case you have any other last minute questions for anybody who joined late, if you do need AIA credit or a continuing education credit for this course, if you get the survey, at the end of the survey you can fill that out. Otherwise, you can just let Steve know, and Steve, you can just forward those to me if people didn't get the survey but they want like AIA credit or certificate, and I'll be happy to provide those. Otherwise, I hope all of you have an afternoon of wonderful summertime like it is here in Raleigh today, and I will talk to you later this week, and we'll kind of build upon this knowledge. We'll talk about project teams and info exchange, so file transfers.
All right. Thank you
Thanks
very
everybody.
much.
Have a great day.